welcome to the show, Michael.
Shad, thank you so much for having me here today.
So you were diagnosed with Asperger syndrome when you were 5. And I read that as a kid, you used to speak through movie quotes.
That is correct.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, I mean, I'd come home from my folks and they'd be like, hey, so do you want to hang out with anyone after school? And I'd be like, round up the usual suspects. It was, I sounded less like a person and more like an IMDb page doing an impression of a human.
What was it about movies that you were drawn to as a kid?
Well, it was interesting because growing up with film, it was difficult for me as a kid getting diagnosed with Asperger's. People often ask me, how did it affect your childhood? It didn't affect me at all. It affected those that surrounded me, you know. I had a certain level of social ineptitude, let's say, that kind of alienated people around me. And I gravitated towards movies because, you can predict film. You can't predict human behavior. I can rewind a scene, like I said in Casablanca, and he will say that line again the exact same way.
Interesting. So after your diagnosis, your parents were helping you to integrate.
Yeah.
Were helping you learn different social skills. Can you walk us through what that looks like? What were some of the social tricks that they were teaching you?
Teaching me the difference between a non-threatening smile and a threatening smile. Just things I didn't even think I had to consider. It wasn't so much about the social skills I had to learn. It was reflecting on it. I was just kind of mad, not that I had to learn it at all, but that no one else seemed to have to learn it because they were quote unquote neurologically typical. Because they didn't get a doctor's note that said hey, you got to learn how to assimilate. They got to walk through public school and never learn how to hold the door for people. My first day of kindergarten, I learned there were 300 kids at my school because I held the door and no one bothered to take it from me.
Because your parents told you this is a kind gesture.
Yeah, they said this is just what people do, and they don't. They lied to me. But no, my folks have been great champions for me since I got my diagnosis.
So, Michael, you clearly have a strong grasp of irony, of wordplay. That might surprise some people. What can you clarify for us about autism and humor?
Totally. Well, what I'll clarify about autism is that it is very much a spectrum. It is autism's like a neurodevelopmental variation that is a spectrum. I have Asperger syndrome, which is on that spectrum somewhere in there, and we're talking about just there's a varying degrees of understanding within a social context, and my social ineptitude stems from being too extroverted, being too sort of out there in my in the way I present to people. I sort of attack conversations, I'm just not very chillax. I'm not like the television stereotype of what an Aspie is, which is sort of like the eccentric introvert, that's typically good with academics. I still am not good with long division, but I know how to carry a conversation decently well and make eye contact. I just don't know when to shut up.
So there's quite a bit of diversity within that spectrum.
Absolutely.
When it comes to humor and grasping
absolutely.
Those sorts of things.
And I'm lucky because when you're talking about understanding sarcasm and irony, that I gravitated towards comedy because that was one of most people with ASD will have a very narrow handful of interests that really speak to them. So I lucked out because I was into performing arts and creative writing, which eventually turned into to comedy. So I was able to sort of understand things like sarcasm and irony. I have a lot of friends who, God bless them, they're into stamp collecting and condiments. So it's a very niche interest, but they're really invested in them, and I think that's great.
So it was your interest in performing arts that led you to comedy?
Yes, it was. Actually, I first got involved in comedy because when I was a kid, I saw my brother. He was involved in a group called Theodore Orangeville's Young Company, which sort of gave me my start. But when I saw him doing this play, he was acting in it, and he hated acting, but he did it. But as I saw him just delivering his lines, all I could think to myself was I want to do that. I want to do that. What he's doing.
How old were you at that point?
I was 6 years old, and from there
Wow.
I immediately got involved in the theater programs. I went to some summer groups. I did a couple plays when I was a kid, but instantly I realized in theater you really sort of have to rely on other people for it to be like a well-oiled machine. When I finally got into comedy, it was a relief because you're the only one who can make or break a performance, So
Yeah.
it's there's not the fear of knowing someone else has forgotten a line.
I understand there was also a pivotal moment in your youth where you felt ostracized from friends, and that led you to do some more writing.
Absolutely.
And how did that lead you further into comedy?
Sure. Well, it's interesting because comedy is born from pain, So it's I think it was in grade 7, and this group of friends that I thought were my friends, I've only really come to grips with it now, were actually they were bullying me. I was the whipping post guy, like I was able to sort of recognize that and say like, okay, I don't want to be around that. So I got out of that. And when you're in a school of 300 people in small town Ontario, like by the time everyone's in grade 8, like no one.
It's hard to get away.
It's hard to get away, you know? It's just like everyone's formed their cliques. No one really wants to branch out from there on out because they know high school's going to come up and their clique's going to explode any second now. So it's just you want to hold on to what little friendship you have left. But I didn't really have that luxury. So I just kind of like I'd come home to talk to my folks who were my best friends at the time and still are. I love you, Dad. But that's my plug for my dad. But like, but when I was a kid, I would come home and my folks were looking after my brother who was nonverbal, profoundly challenged, and also on the spectrum. And like they just wouldn't have time to hear my crazy story, so they'd say, "Why don't you try journaling?" And so I got into that, and very quickly it evolved. Like things started to take shape as jokes. Like there was a very solid set up punch format to these things with a grounded point of view, and so like I would just hammer that away, and eventually they would hear those stories because I would just have like an open mic night in my kitchen where, and I love
that must have surprised you, thinking, okay, I'm going to journal through this difficult time, and then what actually shows up on the page are jokes.
Yeah, because like I was looking at it, and it wasn't even a joke at first. I just kind of looked at it, and I said, in retrospect, this is kind of funny. It's like when you watch a show, you know, when you're watching Charlie Brown, you laugh because everyone's kind of mean to him, you know. It's sort of like a Schadenfreude. So I became horribly disassociative, where I was like, that's actually pretty funny. Like I'm just looking. Yeah.
There was another pivotal moment for you. Your mother put you in touch with David Grenier from the Stand Up for Mental Health program, and it helps those with mental health issues use comedy to overcome that. How did that encounter help you?
It was euphoric because it kind of put my problems into perspective. Because when I went into the Stand Up for Mental Health program, like you get there and I'm kind of like, I am so lonely, and then you get in there and there are people who are just going like, yeah, so I just got up from the psych ward. This is my one day to get out. I'm like, God, I don't have real problems, you know, like that's
perspective.
Oh, absolutely. You know, so like I never hit the teenage angst phase because I got that perspective early, you know.
Well, we actually spoke with David Grenier, and I'm going to play a clip right here.
Excellent.
He was almost instantly the star of the group, so we always put him last on our shows because that's where you put the best comic. He takes that label, autism, and he totally humanizes it. And so when you think of autism, you think, oh, God, you know, this person's really screwed up. I don't want to be around them. And then you see Michael, who is funny and clever and friendly and engaging, and he completely knocks over that stereotype through his comedy, which I think is a fabulous thing. So he's not only funny, he also really has something to say and something to contribute to society.
What goes through your mind when you hear that, Michael?
I cry a little bit inside though. Inside, keep composure for the show. But it's I that's just such a lovely tribute. Like, cause he really helped. Sorry, let me get my thoughts.
No
together
problem.
Here.
Yeah.
No, he's like I was in such a dark place, and he was able to help me carve out a niche for myself and really craft something that's turned into a career for me. So I owe him a lot for that. Like he helped show me. He helped just introduce me to comedy theory and the formula and whatnot, and how to take a jackhammer to those rules. And
you started at it quite young, 14.
I did.
Tell me about your first time on stage at 14.
It was amazing. I was headlining. It was at the Hamilton Convention Center, and I was up there for about I was out there for about 12 minutes, and just the room was so great. It was about, I think, 200 people, and they were all incredibly receptive. I'm just trying, it was just after this that Stand Up for Mental Health was conceived as a means of a therapeutic exercise to sort of channel these dark feelings into something a little more positive. So basically, this was the first moment when I realized comedy for me is less performance art and more like group therapy, where everyone else is too polite to tell me to shut up. It was just such a nice moment.
You've given a couple of nice shout outs to your family already here, but you also tell jokes at your family's expense from time to time. I want to play a clip here.
She can be a little intense sometimes. For the first 14 years of my life, I thought she had Tourette's syndrome. Turns out I'm just really annoying. Research shows swearing can actually be good for your health. If that's the case, then my mom could totally be a personal trainer.
You got a nice double laugh on that first joke there, where it kind of clicked for people.
It kind of takes a moment. That's satisfying.
How does your mother react to jokes like that?
Oh my God! She came to me. Actually, I did my first set, which was really tame, and she came up to me and said, "You need to make fun of me."
Really?
Like she was like, that's the stamp of a great comedian. You got to start making fun of your parents. Like, no, she laughs harder than anyone else. Like, I think my mom barely comes to my shows. And it's just because she's at, like, God bless her, like a lot of autism parents, she's at home looking after my brother 24/7. And, but when she does get to come out to my shows, she's just kind of, I love her because she's just sitting out there and she's like, people are in the audience and like sometimes like the mom jokes, they go over well, or they don't go over as well. And she'll be like, shut up, that's funny. Like thanks, Mom. So like,
I want to ask you about some of the challenges of being a comedian with Asperger's syndrome.
Sure.
A lot of back and forth with the audience goes on. You got to pick up on cues.
Got to have a strong rapport.
Yeah. How is reading the room for you?
It's interesting because I found I've tried to get out of the habit of this. Like, I mean, one of my heroes is Mark Maron because he goes up on stage and is like, yeah, I don't really have anything particularly planned, because he's like, I hate people who plan. Like me, I don't want to completely adopt that philosophy, but I found that for the longest time, my performance was starting to veer into, it was so rehearsed to a point that it's not that it was mechanical, but I think it was removing that audience participation angle. Like it was removing the conversational component that kind of defines stand-up, as an intimate, interactive experience. So like I'm in that transitional period over the last couple of years of just trying to get into more like crowd work, gauge in the room, riffing a bit.
Well, what does that challenge feel like for you? Like taking that on?
It's weird. I actually think that it's less a challenge and it's actually more just testing a room to see like how far are you willing to go in this relationship that we've started together? like where are you willing to take this? Like I take it very personally. So it's like just with an audience, like you just I care about every audience. That I get up in front of. It doesn't matter if it's 12 people in a church basement or like about 200, 300 people at the Glenn Gould Theater Thursday night, from now. So it's just I just want to do them justice, So I
have
just
a genuine connection every time.
Absolutely. I just want it to feel real to them. I want them to feel like they walked away with something substantial and maybe learned something.
Now I read that on Sunday nights, again in terms of challenges, I read on Sunday nights you craft an A and B schedule for the week.
I do.
How does that help you?
It's like I said, I'm an extrovert. I get my energy from being around people. So really, I just sit down there and like Sunday night, I just craft out an entire plan and a backup plan in case my plans self-destruct for the week ahead because I just need to be constantly stimulating myself. Like if I'm by myself too long, I'll write jokes. And I don't want to be like I write jokes when I'm sad. So it's like, but no,
So you might need discipline, that structure and discipline maybe more than others. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like I think it's difficult because people are so chillax, especially in a city environment where we're so oversaturated with content in a metropolitan area where it's like you just want to constantly be me. I want to be constantly out there and doing things because I kind of need to get out of here. It's like I feel like when I'm by myself, I'm venting in an echo chamber. Like it's terrible. So it's just I gotta be surrounding myself with something that gets me outside of my head.
What's it like for you if you have to go to the C schedule?
If I go to
from
the
A, B to C,
then I stay home and watch Rectify, which if you haven't seen it, it's wonderful.
So most of your performances, just wrapping up here, Michael.
Sure.
Most of your performances have been at autism-related events, but on Thursday you'll be in front of the more general audience. How do you think that will compare for you?
I'm thrilled. I think it actually offers more opportunities for a mixture of teaching moments and like just for people that aren't as familiar with the subject matter. And it also sort of tests me to kind of I've been sort of spoiled in that regard because I've done shows either in front of like a corporate venue, like in a breakout session, or for families and educators with people on the spectrum. So it's great just breaking out to people that don't necessarily know or have sort of a familiarity. But now I'm just going to take them into more uncharted waters. Like I want to show them another shade of the human experience.
This is great. Thank you, Michael.
Chad, thank you so much for having me out here.